First, to tell you that we are very excited that you're here. We are glad that you chose to come here this morning. We hope that you get the information you need. I want to ask, insist that everybody turn their phones off. No phoning, no texting, no receiving calls, please. You know what the format is because you've seen all the emails and the thing in the newspaper and all that. We have a good monitor who's going to take care of all that for us. We have wonderful candidates who are willing to serve us, and I hope that you all have a good morning and blessings. All right, we're ready. Oh, I have one more thing to say. I have one more thing to say that they told me to say, and of course I forgot. Some of you gave us questions that had double questions on the paper, and we tried to find you to ask you how to fix it. And some of the questions were duplicate questions that weren't worded exactly the same. So we only asked that if it was duplicate, we only asked it once. So y'all, if you say, "Ooh, they didn't read my question," well, think about the content of the question and see if maybe we did somebody else's version of it. Okay? All right. And if you want to criticize, then you get to do it here.
You notice how efficient our sound man is? Give him a hand. Okay. In case you don't know everyone that's here, and believe it or not, I didn't for a change, I wanted to introduce each person. We have Miss Susan Hughes down on the end here, and then Linda O'Brien, and then Dan Sullivan, Will Lee, Chuck Fish, Kim Knox, and Bill Herman. Now, each one of these candidates has 2 minutes to give an opening statement. We're going to start with Bill. No, you're starting. You're first.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Herman. I'm usually considered the quiet one, quiet director. I don't make a lot of noise. I listen a lot. I'm asking you to re-elect me for the 3rd board term because much has been accomplished in the past 6 years, but much still remains to be done, like an updated 10-year plan which we're working on and various other things. This is not a Saturday or Wednesday morning a month job. It requires more time, more effort. It requires being there for workshops, email, conferences, check signing, attending the meetings of the board appointed committees as assigned. It requires listening to people, and I listen to people. It requires knowing that a board member can only act in concert with the 4 other members of the board. I don't make a lot of decisions on my own. I cannot. It's 4 of us, 5 of us on the board. And we do what is best for the fort and its members. I may not have a lot to say, but I've learned a long time ago that it's harder to hear you with your mouth open than when it's closed. Please vote for me, of course, and thank you for being here today.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kenneth Knox, and I would like to thank you for having us all here today. It's a pleasure to try to serve this community that I've grown to love over many years. For those of you who don't know me, this is my 3rd time through, and now will be my home in the Brackettville area. I grew up on a farm in western Pennsylvania raising sheep and goats, so I'm real familiar with the main industry of this county. And I came here out of choice. In the military, we don't often have homes. We move from town to town about every 3 years, and we chose to live here because we love this community. We love the history. We love the fellowship. We love the community as a whole. And I've seen over the course of the decades that I've been involved in this community, a decline in how the community is taken care of, and I would like to be a part of fixing that. As Bill said, I don't have all the answers. You have the answers. I want to listen to what you have to say. And I have ideas that I hope you'll share with me, and we can work together to make those visions, make the fort a great place to be for all of us. I have multiple decades of experience with large organizations. I've been in the military for almost 20 years before I was medically retired, and I have been an instructor teaching people pretty much most of my life. I'd like to be part of helping you see your vision and your ideas, make this community something very special. I've traveled all over the world, and I have to tell you, I have never seen a community with more potential. We have history, we have hunting, we have fishing, we have neighbors and friends and security. And I think that we have a chance, we have an absolutely stunning chance to make this community something absolutely world-renowned. What it's going to take is us all working together. And as Bill said, we have to cooperate. My wife always says that one of my best qualities is that I'm a man of consensus. I can listen, I can work with people. And I tend to try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt before I start accusing people. So thank you for your support. Please vote for me.
My name is Charles Dish. There's not much about me in my bio in the paper, so let me give you a little background history of myself. Native Texan, lived in Midland all of my life until 8 years ago when I purchased the place down here to retire. Went in the military straight out of high school. After serving, I went to work for an independent oil company and have worked for independent oil companies for the last 41 years, training people and helping organize groups of people that work in the field, supervising them, and optimization of multi-million-dollar oil wells out there, as well as the people scheduling them that take care of these oil wells. That's my background for possibly helping here on the fort, is the organization. Got interested in politics when I first moved here and read about them in the paper and watched the goings on. And last year I was able to retire early and had several people ask me if I would be interested in running for the board, and I finally said I would give it a shot. So here I am, and I hope that I can help the board, and appreciate y'all showing up out here.
Good morning, everybody. My name is William Link. I think I've had a chance to talk to or meet most of you. I gave a pretty lengthy description of my bio, and I'm not going to rehash all of it. I've worn a lot of hats in my working career. I've been in customer service, I've been in sales, I've now been in law enforcement, I've been in health and safety. I've done a lot of different things. As I watch our community change in the 8 years that I've lived here, there's just been some things that haven't made me real happy. I feel like we've done our own investment a disservice. So my only point in being up here and running for the board is to try to be a clear communicator with you folks and tell you where this community is at and give you some suggestions on what we can do, because frankly, it's suggestions to the membership. We all, as candidates for the board, have to understand that we work for the membership. And so we have to present ideas to you and get your buy-in in order to move forward with it. Now, I would like to think that I've had a variety of different experiences that give me a good basis to make some of those suggestions to you. So I hope you will all consider me for your candidate. I appreciate you all coming out here today. Keep it short and sweet. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Dan Sullivan, and during the past 34 months I've served on the board It has been my good fortune to have met many very nice people. I made some new, very good friends, and I always appreciate that. One of those friends handmade a sign showing her grassroots support for me and displayed it for all to see. Disappointingly, a few folks found it necessary to go on social media and ridicule and make fun of it. I simply want to state here today that I'm very proud to have such a friend and thankful, and her effort and support humbles me. I believe I've made a difference during my time on the board, and I can continue to do so. I led the opposition to and ultimately prevented the association from entering into a partnership agreement that would have ended up with losses of tens of thousands of dollars. I steered the board away from considering taking out a $250,000 loan to do improvements and updates, and pushed for changes that allowed us to move forward with that without taking up a loan. The road to improvement and updates is not an expressway. There's many bumps and detours along the way. It's more like climbing a ladder, one step at a time. During the past 10 months, we have started to climb that ladder, and I'm asking for your vote so we can continue to do so. The demands on a good contributing director involve much more than showing up to a meeting once a month. Many hours of hard work and dedication. Are you kidding me?
Hey, 2 minutes is 2
Okay,
minutes.
short and sweet it is. Thank you all, please vote for me.
Good morning, Fort Clark Springs. My name is Linda O'Brien, in case you don't know that already. And I have been here before, and I'm back, and I've been very successful in helping the fort get things done. I want to ask you a question. This is a very unique place. You will hear this often from me. Ask yourself, why did you come here? Why did you pack up and move your home here? Was it because you were intrigued with the history, the historical buildings, the natural beauty, or the abundance of the wildlife? The fact that it is an inexpensive place to live? The answer is, it's all the above. I have traveled extensively in retirement all around the United States, and I have not found any place, in my opinion, that compares to Fort Clark Springs. So, here we all are, trying now to figure out how to manage this asset. Time has taken its toll. Changes and improvements need to be made. This requires difficult decisions and dedicated people. At least 2 generations of owners have come and gone, and now the decisions fall to the current members. It will be your decision that dictates what people will sit on the next board. I would like to inspire you, each and every one of you, to get involved. Not just vote, but get involved. Volunteer. My name is Linda K. O'Brien, and I'd like to be on the board. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Susan Hughes. I visited Fort Clark Springs in 2011 on a hunting trip with my husband and friends. Since then, I fell in love with the history, the wildlife, and the people. Since then, I've seen us take many steps that do not and have not been in the best interest of us as a whole, and has hurt our ability to market our best side publicly and internally. Board members need to have business savvy and a concrete logic to manage an association in an optimized and productive manner. I have management skills from working multiple projects, multi-million-dollar projects for over 15 years. And with these skills, I believe I will be able to help propel us into a productive path. We need leaders with experience in creating, implementing, and controlling budgets, schedules, cost, communication to increase transparency, and to ensure we are moving forward in the right direction. The person you vote for should have this mindset, a business mindset. If I am voted in, I will take the steps necessary to ensure we are working efficiently, effectively, and ethically towards the future. When you vote, vote for someone with the skills, ability to move us forward. Vote for someone that is for all members, not just a selected group. Vote for someone that wants what's best for Fort Clark Springs, not their own agenda. I pray whoever is voted in makes this a better place to live.
Okay, now it's time to have questions that I'm going to read. Some of them, and we have a number of ways that people could turn these in. They could address a single person, or they could address the question to the entire board. If the question is asked of the entire board, and if you don't have anything new to add, I'm going to ask you just say, okay, kind of let it go. And the reason for that is so that we can get as many questions asked as we possibly can. Okay? The first question, I absolutely love this, and it is addressed to the entire board. List 2 positive things that you, about the fort that you like.
The people and the grounds.
As I said before, the thing that made us come here was this community's sense of fellowship and the historic nature of this fort. Those two things make or break a community, and if we can do nothing else other than share that with people and welcome them into this community, we're going to be able to expand our membership and therefore not have to pay as much per person to maintain the fort. And that's one of my biggest priorities, is trying to increase the membership of the fort so that we don't have to share that on your backs.
List 2 positive things about the fort. 2 positive things about the fort.
The history of this fort fascinates me. I've read about a lot of other forts. Fort Davis, been to it several times, Concho, and had never even realized this fort existed, and it was been in working existence for almost 100 years. It still has a lot of the old buildings, and hopefully they'll be around for another 100 years. The second thing was to get out of Midland, Texas. If you've ever lived in Midland, Texas, you'll never want to go back.
My first response to that question is the diversity of the people that I've met here. I've literally met people from all over the world here, and I love that. I love to travel. I don't get to do it a whole lot, but one of the things I love to do is meet people from different places. So that's the very first thing. My second response to this is there is an enormous desire in everybody in this community for this place to be successful. And I don't just mean that financially, I mean successful in terms of what we want to see it. I know everybody at this table wants it to succeed. I know every one of you that I've talked to wants it to succeed. And I know we're not all ever going to agree on how exactly that's going to look, but we're like Congress folks. We might not like it, but we all do have to work together. And I think that desire for this place to be successful is very important. It's the only way we're ever going to see that actually come to fruition.
Thank you. I guess I could say the safe, laid-back, easygoing environment that we live in would be one very positive thing in my opinion. The other second thing I would add is the amenities that are here and available for the members. The trails, the golf course, the swimming pool, the adult center, the activity center, that type of thing. So those are the positives that I would list. There, of course, are many, many more. Thank you.
The history here is what absolutely fascinates me, what has brought me back. I've never seen anywhere else in the U.S. as extensive a fort as we have here. And I also love the volunteers who give of themselves to take and tell you about all the stories and the information that you can find about what's going on here. Phil Coburn's a good example of that. He will give of himself any day of the week to take you around and tell you about everything he knows about this fort. And then you try to go back out and find it yourself. So it's a wonderful place to be.
Everything everyone else has said. It's a wonderful place. It's a beautiful place. When you go through the gates, you just go, ah. If you'll remember the first time you came in here, you just go, ah. First time I saw it, I told my husband, this is where I'm going to retire. And he laughed. So everything that you guys love about it, I'm sure all of us on the board here love about it.
Hang on to the mic because you're up again. The next question also is for everybody. It says, I would like to know from each candidate how many and what volunteer activities you have done this year on the fort.
I have not done many activities or volunteering in this year or last year on the fort. I've had family deaths and changes in my family.
I am currently on the Historical Society Board. I'm the member at large. I'm not the treasurer, I'm not the president, the vice president. I think my job there is to basically try to help them get funds. I am on the Equine Committee. I'm the chairman of that. I'm on the Kinney County Preservation Committee. I'm the vice president of that. And I am on the Fort Clark Preservation Committee. I am the treasurer. I work at the store once a month for the Historical Society. And my husband and I have been working for the past year and a half to begin the restoration of the barn.
Wow, that's a big question. To start with, I have volunteered and worked several different years on Fort Clark Days. I served on the Architectural Committee, which was a weekly commitment every Tuesday morning. I've served on the Declaration Rewrite Committee. I served on a committee that rewrote, not the bylaws, but the elections procedure inside of those bylaws. I've served on a number of other committees. It's hard to recall them all right here off the top of my head, but there's been at least a half a dozen or so different committees I've worked on. Thank you.
Well, short and sweet, folks, I really haven't. Up until last fall, I was very uninvolved in what was going on here, frankly. I devoted a lot of my time, and still devote a lot of my time, to things that I do at work, some of which are volunteer activities that aren't all required of me. But this year, I have volunteered to start assisting Fort Clark Days for 2020 with some of their fundraising activities. So this is all new for me, so not much up until this point, but hopefully more in the future.
Until just last year, I was working during the weekdays and would come home on the weekends. But now that I'm retired, when it was announced a couple of months ago that there would be no Fort Clark Days in one of the board meetings, I went ahead and volunteered for the 2020 Old Fort Clark Days Committee to help with that, so we can get that back going since we're not going to have it this year.
You may or may not have seen me, but I've been involved in the Old Quarry Society for several times, once between 2005 and 2010, and again now since we moved back in 2016. This would be a great time for me to invite all of you to the dinner theater on the 22nd and 23rd at 6:30 for the Romanian murder mystery. Shameless plug, I know. Secondly, I've worked in the talent show with different aspects of helping the community come out and share their talents. And again, as Bill said, the diversity of talent in this community is amazing. We have generational knowledge that we can pass on to children that come to this fort. Hopefully we grow our population here. My wife and I have worked on the Animal Rescue Association out of Del Rio, and we also started an organization called Costumes for Kids to help kids who don't have costumes to be able to get them. That both supports the fort and Bracketville, so we're both involved in that. But thank you.
I have been almost on the ground floor, I think, on recycle. I've since semi-retired from recycling. I've worked Fort Clark days. Was on the architect committee and am the liaison for architect right now. I've done I need the word, creek cleanup. What were we called? I can't remember. Garbage men? No, that wasn't the right word. Oh yeah, I was part of community council, and I have attended community council meetings for a number of years. And there's other things, but I can't remember. It's been so long.
Hey, keep in mind, another one for everybody. Okay, this one's kind of long, so I'm going to kind of clip it just a little bit. It says, okay, the fort has many buildings that are just sitting there that we're paying taxes, electricity, and water on. Which, in your opinion, can you hear me? Which, in your opinion, would be the best building to renovate and get up so that we can use it as a income-producing item?
Motel, RV park, the service club, Dickman Hall. Is that enough?
Part of the aspect of this community that everyone on this board has shared with you is the history. One of the biggest things I would like to try to do is involve organizations that do historical reenactment and living history. I think the barracks, as an unused building, has great potential to house year-round historical reenactment companies that would provide income throughout the summer months, to work with Linda and the horse barn to provide trail ride camps for children, a place that we could bring in the Boy Scouts of America to have actual involvement and growth in the community. All those could be revenue generating resources, and I've never seen a recreational facility that doesn't give package deals for 1- and 3-day trips that would be perfect for a facility like that.
Thank you. When I first moved here, the restaurant behind the golf pro shop was open, and it was a great place to eat. They served good food. It since has had several people operate it, the last few without seeming to me like a whole lot of success. But I think the fort needs to open another restaurant, and this time I think they need to put it in Dickman Hall. Go ahead and open back up the kitchen area of that and get a restaurant going in there.
Well, Charles stole my thunder. That's exactly where I was going with it.
Good.
No, Dickman Hall is one of the first buildings you can see when you come in the property. No, it's not directly on Fort Clark Road, but it's one of our front-facing buildings. It's one of the most interesting buildings to look at visually. It has been used as a restaurant in the past. It's an enormous building. There's a ton of potential there. That's my answer. It's the very first thing that came to mind. Dickman Hall definitely needs a refurbish.
That's a very interesting question because there's many facets to it. One is resources, financial resources that we have. And we may all love to see a restaurant in Dickman Hall, and hopefully that can be worked out at some time. But to put that kitchen in operating condition would cost a lot of money. Restaurants over many years here have been tried over and over and over again, every different type, and not one of them has ever succeeded. I know some people say, oh, they used to be great at the Dickman Hall deal. Well, they went away and there was a reason for that. I think the commissary building is one that could be looked at, and the usage would have to come up with some good innovative ideas that would require the input of many people, all of you. But that would be one good one to renovate. And improvements on the rest of them as we're working towards. Motel. I don't believe it.
I would like to see Seminole Hall be considered to be the next motel building. One of the problems that we have here is we don't have enough rooms when we have Fort Clark Days and when the Hunt's here. And we have a building that is up. It would take some renovation, but there is a potential there that we could use. The commissary would be nice, but I haven't figured out what for. So that's why I think the Seminole Hall would be something to think about. Some more motel rooms that generate money, income.
It's great being the last. All these guys have very good ideas. You cannot say which one you would address first until you get plans in place. Ideas, plans, cost. Cost is important because then you look at the revenue. If the revenue is not going to pay for that cost and give us more income, so really I can't answer that question until I see a plan, a budget, and revenue.
Okay, hang on to the mic. You got another one.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Yes.
Is there a rebuttal authorized for questions, i.e. if we've had our statement, are we authorized to rebut?
That's a good question. I had never considered that for questions addressed to everybody, but questions addressed to an individual, yes, there is. So let's just kind of go with what we have right now. And I'm sitting over here chomping at the bit to say something. I'll tell you. Okay, this is a pretty long question, so I'm going to kind of truncate it again. When Mr. Lawrence was first elected to be executive officer, one of his primary goals was to increase tourism, and that apparently has not happened. So the question is, what ideas do you have to help Mr. Lawrence accomplish that goal? Increase tourism.
For everybody?
That's for everybody. Everybody.
I believe he has some good ideas.
I believe he had an activity director that had great ideas.
I believe
He
he
had some good ideas.
I believe
He had an activity director that had good ideas. It's okay to hear. I'll speak loud. I believe he had some great ideas, and I believe he had an activity director that had great ideas. I believe us as a community should come up with ideas and help him have the tools to make these ideas be implemented and be productive.
I like the idea that marketing needs to be done a little more aggressively. We've had in the past the pickup truck and individuals volunteering to go here, there, and everywhere around the area to get people interested. I personally have gone to San Antonio, spent a lot of time in the doctor's office, so I would bring my flyers from Fort Clark Days, and they were like all mesmerized. Oh my God, you guys are doing this? How come we just found out about it? So I just think that we need to have a person or two that's appointed to go and do this on a regular basis. And it's been said to me, well, we want to finish the motel, we want to get it just right. So anyway, that's what I think. I think we need to get people out there meeting other people.
Thank you. I believe we could look to volunteers from our community that have some expertise in marketing. There's been many things tried, billboards, visiting different conventions, and none of it has ever really produced great results. There were great results when Mendelsohn was developing this, but you want to remember he could spend a ton of money to get people here because he was selling memberships for thousands of dollars and selling subdivisions of lots, so he had plenty of revenue coming in, making it worthwhile. Thank you.
Marketing is a full-time job. It should never be left up to a volunteer. No offense to anybody that wants to volunteer to do it, that's great. But it is literally a full-time job on a couple of aspects. It's not just the time involved. You need a professional to do that job. You need to send a professional to these events where you go send people out that are professional marketing salespeople that know exactly how to deliver a message and how to get a return on that time spent. So these events that we've gone to in the past at all these venues in larger cities, those are great. But there's also cheap ways to market too, including radio. Radio's really cheap. Most radio stations, especially a small local radio station, you'll pay $8 an ad. You can pay by the ad however many times you run it during the day. You can only run it during certain hours of the day or certain radio segments if you want to target specific audiences. So there are some inexpensive ways to market, but my biggest concern when it comes to this is that we employ somebody full-time to do that job.
Several years ago, a pickup truck was bought and wrapped with advertisement on it. A little covered wagon was also purchased to be used for advertising. The truck you can see driving around the fort from time to time. Security uses it. The little covered wagon, I have no idea what happened to it. I guess they rode off into the sunset. But I agree with Mr. Link. If we're going to advertise, we need probably to get some professionals in here. There's also, you have a lot of dude ranches, working ranches for people to go and spend their vacation there. Those can be advertised through various Western magazine ads. So there is some ways we can get the word out, and we definitely need to be doing that.
To duplicate somewhat of what Bill and Mr. Fish have both said, I think success builds on success. We really have an opportunity to bring in and partner with bigger organizations who have the technical and resource skill to market this community. For example, we could partner with the University of Texas for their anthropology, their archaeology departments, and provide a setting that they could do their research and make our museum world-class museum that they highlight in their advertising. We would then become a news media worthy outlets for their stories, their finds. I mean, any one of you walked around this fort and picked up an arrowhead that's over 5,000 years old. That's historic resources for us. And if we partner with those organizations to help spread our message, we're going to get our word out a lot. And then, as Bill said, we need a professional to really run that 24/7.
I think everybody here has, a good ideas about it, and boils down to a marketing program or person to put it all together and advertise it. We had one started for a little while, and it was working. But conditions being what they were, it's not in effect anymore. But we also have to let it be known that this place is open to the public. They have to be able to come on here to visit whatever we have. So, marketing is what's necessary.
Keep the mic. Okay, this is going to be a one-word answer, but it's for everybody, okay? If the fort had the money, what is the first project that you would like to have completed? If the fort had the money, what is the first project that you would like to complete?
I would say marketing.
Okay, thank you.
Fort Clark days.
I agree with Mr. Link. Fort Clark Days needs to be brought back.
I appreciate that, that was my idea. I'll take credit though. RV park renovation.
I call it a toss-up between the RV park and the motel.
It seems like 80% of everyone that comes here by the RV park. And I would say that the RV park is probably the most important marketing tool we have at this point.
I'd have to say Fort Clark days.
Okay, thank you again. Keep the mic. Another one for everybody. This is, should renters have to get a recreational membership to live on the fort and enjoy the amenities? Let me read that again so you make sure you get, there's two parts there. Should the renters have to get a recreational membership to live on the fort and to enjoy the amenities? Live and enjoy.
There's a membership already on each lot. I believe somehow we should be able to move that membership to the renter, and that way the fort will be able to track that renter and have monthly contact with that renter. That's just one idea. I'd be glad to look at other ideas, but I think that would cover not only them have a value every month, and adding value, if you add or take away value, people look up and they pay attention.
I don't think a renter should have to buy an FRM if they don't want to use the amenities. They should be able to live here without it. But if they want to use the amenities, the history here in the past is that they have to buy an FRM. And I know there's lots of discussion. I haven't sat in a lot of it, but some of it, about who's going to pay for that. Is the renter going to pay for it, or is the owner going to pay for that? That's the issue that they're kind of grappling with now. I also want to make sure that people who come here and live here and buy properties to fix up to rent shouldn't be penalized because they're trying to do that. So, I'm not sure what the answer is yet. I don't think the board is sure. They're still discussing it.
Thank you. The rental property the renter is occupied has membership dues being paid for by the owner of that property. Those membership dues include a membership that is supposed to bestow the benefits of membership, which is the use of the amenities. I think possibly with some very limited conditions, the renter should be able to use those without purchasing an FRM membership. The membership's already being paid for by the landlord. Thank you.
I'm going to give you a yes/no answer, but I'm going to explain real quick. I think long-term renters need to have a membership because it is impossible for us to police every renter on this fort whether or not they're using those amenities. Now, the answer to my short-term renter question is I don't think they should, but I think we would need to be very clear in defining what exactly a short-term renter is. But getting to that point, whether we decide that's 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, whatever, I think your long-term renters do need to pay for that.
I think that renters should go ahead and be able to enjoy all the amenities of the fort, just as if they own the property, because the property is being paid for by the owner, and he ought to be able to pass those along to his renters. However, he is responsible for their actions should they break some rules or damage something down there where he could possibly be fined for his renters acting up.
I think it's a very difficult question to answer, but in short, if a renter is already paying rent, which includes the cost of the membership, then they should enjoy all the amenities that are entitled to them. The problem you have is when you consider walking through the woods around your home an amenity that is chargeable if you want to do it as a group, you start pitting groups of people against each other. And we have done nothing but separate our community into factions over the question of whether you have to rent your own amenity that you're already paying dues for. That needs to stop. In large part, as far as charging someone as a property owner because your renter violated the rules, I don't see how that's even feasible, number one. But number two, the renter is explicitly responsible for their own actions, and they should be held accountable if they are damaging property.
Renters, years ago, what they used to do, of course that's years ago and we're not doing it now, but the owner of the property would sign his amenity usage to the renter. And there was a paper and it had a list of the names that were on it. It didn't work very well back then. It may work better now, I don't know. But the other thing is that allowing the renter to use the amenities of the member, since they're renting, we could issue or charge renters to buy a card and also the special sticker for the car.
All right, thank you. This one is, no, you don't have to keep it. This one is for special people. This one is for Susan Hughes, Charles Fish, Ken Knox, and Dan Sullivan. Okay. The question is, Community Council meets in January, April, September, and November on the second Saturday. Why haven't you attended any of them?
I attended the last one. I am guilty of not attending the others.
I find it absolutely amazing that someone is addressing a question to a person's ability or inability to make an individual community council meeting. I have a full-time ranch. I have a full-time job. I have 3 children. And just like every person out here, we all have lives. We help where we can help, and we should not criticize people for their wise choice to use their time as best they can and not overcommit to being on every council you can be on and then give less than your full effort. Everything I've ever participated in this fort has received 100% of my effort. That's how it will be if you elect me as a board member. I will not commit to things I cannot do.
Ditto.
Dan Sullivan.
There's a couple reasons. Actually, I did attend a community council meeting many, many years ago. And I think, first of all, I believe with the board of directors this year so far with our special meetings, workshops, and regular board meetings, there's been about 17 or 18 meetings there, and that doesn't include behind the scenes. Also, we need to recognize the community council is not a committee of the board, but or the association. It is a separate, independent entity. It's a 501c3 organization, and I hesitate to cause any influence from coming from the board of directors onto the community council. They need to operate completely independently, and that means I don't need to be there. But I'm always happy to hear their report at our board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this one's to Linda. Well, I thought that was for. Did I miss somebody? Okay, all right. This one's to Linda O'Brien. At one time you worked on the Ford as an independent contractor. You were responsible for establishing a program to collect from those that were not paying their assessments and, if necessary, foreclosing on the properties if they refused to pay. Please comment on the success of your program, including funds collected and successful foreclosures.
Can you give me the last part of that, please? Help, what?
Okay, let me back up here finally. Please comment on the success of your program to include funds collected and successful foreclosures.
I went to work the 1st of January 2011 and I had been asked to try and collect HOA fees. That's when we started with that first. It took me about 3 months to figure out how to do it. And I got set up with the local attorney at the time, which was Tully. That's what I had done, is worked for attorneys all my life. Anyway, so we started the process of sending out notices to people who were late. We started with the biggest ones. We had one that was like $10,000. So we started with that, and we sent out letters, and then we waited 30 days and checked to see if we had made any, lately. So that's how that program got started. And when it was all said and done, after a year and a half, we had brought in over $200,000. Now, then we started looking at houses, because some of these people who didn't want to, pay up had owned homes. So now we start looking, if you're not going to work with us, because we tried to get people to help themselves, then we're going to take your house. So there was then, and at that point in time, Texas law allowed you to notify somebody that you had three sets of letters, and you're not going to do anything, then your property is going to be considered for foreclosure the next month. So that happened. We took 27 houses. And we also helped people save approximately that same number.
Okay, I'm going to take a liberty here and ask a follow-up question on that. Do you think that those efforts could be replicated today?
To take a house in foreclosure right now, you have to have an attorney that goes to court for you, so it costs a whole lot more money. So I'm sure they're going to pick and choose carefully who they do. I think they're getting ready to do some right now. I don't know all those details. But the HOA fees are a little simpler than that. I think we could get hot on those.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, do you feel like the port has too many people in management positions, and how would you resolve that if they do? And that's for everybody. So where did we start last time?
Would you repeat your question? I think I got it, but I want to make sure.
Okay, yeah, all right. Do you feel the port has too many people in management positions, and how would you resolve it if they do?
No. They don't have too many.
I think that's a really hard question to answer, seeing as we can't get a full and fair accounting of how many employees are on the fort. I believe that as a board member, we would have more access to that information, so it'd be easier to make a decision at that point in time. You have to ask yourself the question, is the leadership in this community, in this association, providing you the benefits that you are entitled to because of the money you pay to be here? And if they're not, then we need to go and reassess who is doing what with your money and find out if they're doing their job. And if they're not, then we need to terminate them.
believe we have about, what, 4 managers? Don't know. I don't think we necessarily have too many managers. We need one for each department. Security, maintenance, office, and golf course. Perhaps a manager over the RV park too, which I believe there already is one. So no, I don't necessarily think we have too many people right now.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Ken said. Without me being completely aware of every employee that works here, I don't know that I can give you a yes or no answer. I think the way I'm going to answer this is I'm going to tell you that that needs to be a joint conversation between the board of directors and the executive officer to make that determination. And as we've all kind of sat here, and a bunch of us have mentioned that there's things here that are happening that we're not all particularly thrilled with, one of the things that needs to be considered for any businesses that's having a difficult time is a possible restructuring. And restructuring doesn't mean getting rid of people. It doesn't mean adding people. It can just be changing job responsibilities. But that conversation needs to happen between the XO and the board to figure that out, whether we do have too many or not enough managers.
Excuse me. Actually, during the past year, there's been quite a bit of restructuring from reassignment of duties to different employees and shifting into different places. But as Charles said, there's basically one manager for each department. And so I'd say, no, we don't have too many. And I'd also say that's a decision for the executive officer. By our bylaws and the duties and responsibilities that are put on the executive officer and the board of directors, along with limitations, it should be a decision made by him. If the board as a whole feels that that's improper, that he's not doing good, then he needs to be given different direction. But it's basically his decision. My short, sweet answer is no.
I don't believe we have too many managers. I believe we need to have more accountability from these managers. People are given responsibilities, and is anybody following up with them? I realize they're extremely busy, everyone doing what they're doing, but you have to develop a system where you make sure that when you ask for something as a manager, that you get it, and not move on to something else and not come back and check. And I think there's a sort of a gray area where it's not happening, where they're not getting the accountability they need, and then people get frustrated, and here we go.
No, it doesn't matter what someone's title is. It matters how productive they are. I see that we have people working hard, okay? We pay people when they work hard. I believe we would benefit greatly more than scrutinizing their title, doing workflows to make sure if this happens, then what do we do next? And accountability. So my answer is no.
Okay, the next one's another one for everybody. We are about to lose many of our winter Texans due to the reduction of Wi-Fi TV slot and slots being unavailable. These folks are very important to the fort and bring in thousands of dollars as well as wonderful goodwill. Please tell us what can be done to improve the RV park and keep the fort and keep these wonderful extended Fort Clark family members here.
First, the question is they're leaving because of why? And you're saying no internet? Well, why don't we fix that? If that's the reason they're leaving is no internet, let's give them internet. Give them a monthly fee if we can't afford from the dues we're bringing in to pay for internet. They can pay extra for more internet.
Okay, so let me respect this, because it says Wi-Fi and TV, and being an XRV, or I can tell you, any park that you go to includes that in the price. So the question is how can we provide Wi-Fi and TV and give more space to the winter Texans because they're coming in and the slots are all full due to the workers.
We have an old RV park. I don't know how much it would cost to get that up and running. I believe that should be looked at and priced out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, first of all, the Wi-Fi issue is tied up with the motel. The motel, they are redoing it there as well, and they're going to go hand in hand. As far as the, so that's coming. It's coming. And they're supposed to have the motel done by summer. So then we should have the Wi-Fi out there then. The other issue with the winter Texans, we've had winter Texans here as many as 68, and now I think we have 10. And I think the fact that we knew this pipeline was people were coming in, and the management of the RV park didn't get a hold of the winter Texans to say, listen, if you want to be here next year, you must make a reservation now. And that did not happen. And I think we could go about trying again this year to get those people back, because these guys come and go all the time.
It's interesting, when you actually talk to some of the people that it's been reported, well, they're leaving because of no TV, or they're leaving because of the internet. And by the way, they have internet available to them now, they have to subscribe to it. But when you actually start talking to these people one-on-one, you discover they're leaving for a lot of other reasons. Illness, sickness, age. The demographics are changing, and the newer generation isn't into the RVing as same as some of the older ones were. So that's why we're losing a lot of them. As a full-time RVer for 5 years and a winter Texan for many years, I can tell you that most of the serious RVers I know had the facilities to supply their own television and their own internet. But this will be worked on, as Linda said. The existing television that was out there, what does that mean?
10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds. Was completely inadequate, and to put in the new television required new cabling, thousands of dollars.
I'm going to agree with Dan's point. There's a lot of reasons people leave. It's not all for one thing, but I am going to say that not knowing a lot about RVing myself, when I found out that we didn't have a consistent television option provided and that the internet option being provided now is something like $40 per device, that's not amenities anybody wants to pay for. If ultimately, in order to fix that, that might be a small bump in the cost, that just needs to happen. People want those amenities. They want those comforts. I've also been understood, as I went to the pancake breakfast for the first time this morning, I had a chance to talk to folks over there, that we don't charge anybody for the electric they used. That needs to be investigated. I don't know what the right answer is sitting here right now. I can't tell you if it's better to just say, okay, your electric's included with the price, or maybe we need to actually figure out what it's going to cost us to put meters there. And I want to piggyback on something Linda said too. I love the idea of having an established system where we know in advance if our winter Texans are planning on coming back the following year.
It takes probably 6 months to a year to put in a pipeline from Midland down to Houston, Baytown. These people that are staying, that are working on the pipelines are going to be here 6 months to a year at best. And we're not going to see very many more pipelines coming around Brackettville. This will be about 6, I believe, that I've counted. The pipeliner is going to be gone in another year, year and a half. There may have already been some damage done towards getting the winter Texans to come back now, but cutting off amenities like cable TV or Wi-Fi is not smart. I think there's been damage done, and it's going to take a while to get the people to come back.
All right, here we go. First and foremost, having been in the RV park when I first lived here, yeah, inadequate access to internet and TV is detracting from what you want to do daily, but it's not the reason you come to an RV park. It's what might keep you there, but the price the location are what brings you to an RV park, and really more importantly, the community. As Bill said at the Pancake Breakfast, everyone's out there enjoying each other's company. If we don't change the climate of the fort and stop fighting with each other, if we don't stop abusing each other in public, we will never stop becoming the laughingstock of this area. We need to figure out how to get along together. We need to make smart business decisions in concert with the customer and with the board and with the administration to figure out what it is they need. And then we need to look to the future. The Air Force Base right now is attracting and recruiting the target demographic you're talking about, RVers. They don't have the space to provide people a place to live for a job that they've already got. We could be picking up that business, and to charge them more if you do it without the meter versus just put it into the price. I agree with Mr. Fish, that's not going to work.
It's a very complex question because, you know, if you use the term winter Texans, they're, what, 5 months, 6 months here? And after that, the RV park sits idle. So it's costing you money to do nothing. So we have to figure out a way where you can commingle both types of RVers, so calling the pipeliners RVers in this respect. We have to figure a way where you can commingle that, because the RV should hopefully produce revenue all year round.
Keep the mic, because the next question, thanks for that tie-in. This is a wonderful tie-in to the next question. What are your thoughts on the fort as a venue for tourism as opposed to solely an HOA?
Goes back to marketing again, where you would have to, you know, advertise, market, whatever you want to come and do, and, you know, let people understand that they can come here and see and use the amenities. If for a fee, yes, fine, but they should be able to come on here and not be deterred from showing up.
And Bill, I hate to do this to you, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer that question again afterwards if you want to. But why don't we take a 10-minute break? Your ears are going to be dead, all right? So let's knock off for 10 minutes. Okay, now that blood is recirculated, let's go on. Okay. If elected, would you pursue and work to accomplish a 10-year plan for Fort Clark Springs? And would you share any thoughts you have today about what a 10-year plan should look like? This is to everyone. Oh, finish the last question first. Let me get that question. Okay, the question that we were working on, and Bill still has 27 seconds, he can answer if he wants to. The question was, what are your thoughts on the fort as a venue for tourism as opposed solely to an HOA? The very first person, okay. What are your thoughts on the fort as a venue for tourism?
Most definitely so. We need tourism. We cannot survive with our members alone. There's not enough people living here based on the monies that we charge now to support Fort Clark. It won't happen. You need outside money coming into this fort.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to answer this one. Number one, we need year-round tourism. Number two, we need them to be able to have access to the fort on a basis that allows us to charge for their visit. Again, I've never seen a resort that doesn't offer 1, 2, 3 week packages or 3-day packages, something along those lines to allow people to come here. As far as tourism destinations go, everyone thinks that there's nothing here, it's very remote. You can market to that isolation, a retreat from the craziness of the world. We can partner with organizations, as I said, like the universities, like the historical reenactment societies, to bring year-round tourism to this area. And you have decades of opportunities to bring people here. And we should do that to try and take the weight of the dues off of the back of the membership.
I'll agree with you. We do have both tourists and membership. However, I have noticed when I first moved here, we had somebody in charge. I don't know if that person is still in charge of selling lots. I don't know if we still have a person in the front office that advertises or talks to people. And in my opinion, and I know I'm going to catch some flack over this, I think we ought to open up more areas along the creek to try and bring some people in for some prime type property instead of out in the mesquite patch.
Tourism, let's put it this way. If we want this community to thrive and we want it to become a destination again, and we don't want to be paying $150 or $200 a month in HOA fees, we need that tourism. This has got to become a destination for people again, for their short-term visits, for their long-term visits, and hopefully eventually for them to invest in this community as well. The only way we're ever going to get a return on our investment, folks, is by investing in that tourism and getting it here through a lot of the things we've already talked about. I mean, belabor that again. But this has got to be one of our primary focuses as membership, is how do we get that tourism here?
If the majority of our members want it to be a tourist attraction, that's fine, but what we need to do, just having some historical buildings to look at is not going to make it a tourist destination. We've tried magazine exposure, newspaper exposure, billboard exposure. None of it has produced much. What needs to be done, people are active today and they want activities. So rather than just have something for them to look at, we need to have more activities. Maybe enhance all our trails, set up motor scooters or golf cart rentals to go up and down the trails, promote the golf course more. That's what we need, is activities to attract people, and hopefully it'll work. But sure, it would be nice to have all that tourism, but as we stand now, we're not Six Flags under Texas here.
The tourism is nice. My focus is on the buildings, and I know Mr. Sullivan doesn't think that'll bring in a lot of people, but I think it does bring in a significant number of people. I work at the store, and people come in all the time, and I get a chance to talk to them, and why are you here? Because we heard these buildings are here, and the history, and the library that you can buy from in the store. So that goes a long way towards the tourism. That's what we have, that's what we should be maintaining, and if you guys can figure out some other interesting ways to keep people busy here. I know people come for the pool when it's hot, and then they want to see the museum. So we do have stuff here that's going to bring people in. We just need to keep it up, maintain it, and do some sort of marketing.
Before you advertise and before you can try to bring people in for tourism, you have to have a place for them to stay and a place and things for them to do, whether activities or looking at old historical buildings, which is wonderful. So, but I've had people, members say, we're tired of the members being the cash cow, okay? And if all the members are tired of them being the only way that we're bringing in income, then I would be in favor of pursuing increased tourism. There's a lot to that, and a lot of things have to go in parallel. You cannot just advertise and get people in here with no place to stay and nothing to do. So there's a lot of planning that needs to be done before this type of activity is put in place.
Okay, keep the mic, here we go. And I like this questions for everybody. This is good. It gives everybody a chance to speak their mind. The question here is, if elected, would you pursue and work to accomplish a 10-year plan for Fort Clark Springs? And would you share any thoughts you have today about what a 10-year plan should look like?
I've thought about being on the board, and you're on the board for a selected number of years. So whatever you start does not mean that it's going to be completed with the next group. But it would be nice to create a long-term goal. We've got lots to do. You guys see everything's falling down around us. Our grounds need to be kept, our trails, our creek, our spring. There's multiple ways to do that. We have a fantastic pool of members that from their experience know how to raise money. They know how to get grants. We are not communicating with our members. First, we need a way to communicate with our members, and then we can actually bring in money to create our jobs and have the members participate in the grants. Bring in the members that know how to make money, and bring in the tourism if that's what you'd like.
There currently is a 10-year plan in draft. I asked permission to see it, and I was given it. And I read it. It's the first one I've ever seen. And I thought it was pretty well done. It takes consideration every building that we have, what needs to be done to it, and the money that would be involved to do these projects. And every item on the list, it's 3 pages long, includes the expenditure that would be involved and how long they would take to do it. They would do this part this year, and they would do this part next year, and they would do this next year. And it just seems like a very viable way to try to maintain this property that is humongous and huge and needs a lot of work. So I think a 10-year plan is a great idea, and I think that the board is currently doing a good job trying to get it going.
Thank you. That is true. We do have a 10-year plan to update and repair and improve facilities, all the facilities throughout the fort. Hopefully the succeeding boards will follow up and take that through. The financing of that, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, can be done through the use of our restricted fund, which was changed in the usage of change in the last declaration revision. And just as a comment, our governing documents require us to have 1,600 acres of common property that cannot be developed. And we've already infringed on that and are short a few acres of that. So that kind of precludes developing along the creek, which would be a wonderful thing to do, but first you're going to have to get a change on that 1,600 acres, and I don't know if we can.
Sorry, Mr. Sullivan, time.
Well, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I'm not going to reinvent the wheel with this answer. I think one of the reasons that when you go in between, we'll say board to board in this case, it changes when we get to our long-term plans, whether it's 10 years, 10, 20 years, whatever, is because the goals get too specific. And I think the only way you keep consistency is if you have goals that are a little bit more generalized, meaning we all know we need to revitalize some of the amenities. So in order for us to have a successful 10-year plan, we've got to make it something where it's not going to be the new board shows up and says, well, we want to prioritize the golf course, or we want to prioritize the restaurant, or whatever, because then you're just going to sit down and rewrite the thing all over again. As part of that, when you discuss the cost of some of these things, you've got to plan out where that money's coming from. Is it coming from grants? Is it coming from the small things that we're going to try to do to bring people in here? Whether those are short-term people coming for a day, whether they're RVers staying for 3 months, or whatever the case may be. So the decision has got to be made, and a plan has got to be set in motion that is something that's not going to be changed every single time we have a new board that comes in.
Well, it sounds like there's already a 10-year plan in progress right now. I hope the fort still has the money to complete this 5, 6, 10 years from now. I think any kind of plan is going to be dependent on what type of working income and capital is coming into it. So I would personally just like to see the current 10-year plan fulfilled. But the infrastructure of this fort is pretty old in some places, and unexpected breakdowns and maintenance is going to have to be done over the next 10 years. I don't know that we can plan ahead for unexpected work that ends up having to be done. I think it's more of a take it as it comes.
Absolutely, we have to strategically plan how we're going to survive as a community. Absolutely. I spent about 7, 8 years in the Air Force doing exercise development, disaster management planning, combat mission planning. All of that experience starts with getting consensus from the vast majority of the experience that you have. And you guys are that experience. I don't know how the current 10-year plan was built. I don't know how much input you had to that plan, but you need to be deeply involved in that because it will not succeed if you're not involved. As far as operationally looking ahead at how do we get to 10 years down the road, Mr. Fish is right. We have to survive those 10 years. We have to do smart short-term things to bring in revenue so that we can then look down the road. And that revenue needs to be consistent across the year. It can't be winter Texans on a peak and summer with nothing. We have to have sustained income year-round.
You know, it's been said already that, you know, basically it's the 10-year work plan exists. It's just a way of putting it together and implementing it based on revenues available.
Thank you. Keep the mic. This is a yes or no question, but listen to it carefully because there's a word in there that's pretty strong.
Do I still beat my wife? Is that what you're going to ask me? What?
Are you willing to support Lord Clark days? Yes or no?
Yes.
Can I just save you time and assume everyone's going to say yes? Yeah, absolutely, we have to. I think that without that volunteer input that you all have done, this is important. Yes or no, right? Yes. Yes.
Yes, I'm on the committee.
Enthusiastically.
Unquestionably, yes.
Yes, I will support 2020. I would have supported 2019.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I'm hoping that all of you realize now that you're willing to put forth effort. Don't just say, oh goody, it's actually happening. That means you got to get out and do something. Okay, and the next question, again, for everybody. Most of you are not well known to the membership. Social media accepted. Not everyone is addicted to online communication. Have you physically interacted with the membership, doing volunteer work that benefits both the fort and the membership? Do you want me to reread? Okay.
No, I have not. I'm not on in any clubs. I'm not, I think I am on the gun club. and there's not a lot of interaction there when you go out and shoot. I have went door to door and met people. I believe that we need a newsletter that we can put information in. I've actually even thought about putting a little book swap, little house in front of my house and putting information, contact information of what's going on. There's lots of people here that could be very beneficial to us as a team, and I believe we are failing on pulling us together. So,
15 seconds.
no.
Chuck, would you mind repeating that?
Okay. Most of you are not well known to the membership. Social media accepted. Not for everyone is addicted to online communication. Have you physically interacted with the membership during doing volunteer work that benefits both the fort and the membership?
Well, as I said before, I'm very involved with the preservation of stuff around here, whether it's in Brackettville, on the fort. As far as communicating with other people, the membership on the fort, I think that there should be some sort of a newsletter that's put out when we have a board meeting and that brings people up to date about what's going on. The projects that we talked about last month, if they're not done this month, why? This is what's happened and this is what's coming up. It would be something that maybe the executive officer would be able to put together and put out. There's a lot of older people here who want something in their hand. They don't want to go on Facebook. Did I cover all you asked me? 15 seconds. I guess I did.
I have taken part, was part of a delegation down in Crystal City trying to promote housing on the fort to the fracking companies and their employees when they first came in. As I said before to one of the questions, I've worked Fort Clark days. I've served on the Search and Certification Committee, the Declaration Rewrite Committee, the Election Revision Committee, and the list goes on, the Architectural Committee, and just talking to members as you run into them and meet them in the community.
So as I mentioned before, I've only kind of recently gotten myself involved in some of the things here. I've started getting myself involved in community council. Other than that, the only thing that I've ever really done was I was part of one show that we did here with Old Quarry Society, but up until now, I just haven't had my focus here. So this is kind of new for me. I'm freely admitting that, but I'm interested in getting a little bit more involved in it all. So hopefully I get to see some more of you at some of these other clubs and committee events as we go forward.
As I said earlier, I've only recently retired. Most of the people that I come in contact with here have been at the golf course over the last 8 years. On the weekends when I came home, I interact with my neighbors. Again, I have volunteered for the Old Fort Clark Days Committee. But that'll be my first time actually doing something to help the fort.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we have a murder mystery coming up, just so you know. It's the 22nd and the 23rd, 6:30. Yeah. I've been participating in that organization for a long time. We give scholarships out to children in the community, and we love doing that. It's a fantastic way to give back to the membership. I love working with you and seeing you at those plays. I also work on a recruiting and retention committee at the base to try and bring new simulator instructors to this community, and I have plugged the RV Park and Fort Clark to every single one of all of the candidates we've talked to in the last year and a half, because it is a great place. Unfortunately, we have not actually been able to secure it because it's a long way to go for work, so maybe we could figure out an avenue on that to improve that tie-in. But yeah, there's a lot about dealing with the individual memberships, and again, it goes back to that sense of community. We need more involvement working together.
I've lived on Fort Clark since 1980, except for a small time when I had the job-related change to Carrizo. So I've grown up with generations of people on Fort Clark. So I've been involved in a lot of different organizations over the years. So I've met a lot of people, and I'll talk to people. I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. Yes, and I'm an old quarry. Sure.
Okay, 2 really quick yes or no questions. Okay, did we understand that yes or no question?
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes or no? Membership assessment should increase when we need more money.
Yes.
No.
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 I didn't catch a question. So my question to you is, what's the question?
Okay, the question is, yes or no? Membership assessment should increase when we need more money.
I think,
Yes or no?
okay, I'll say no with reservations.
Thank you.
The answer you want to hear is no, but it might be yes. Depends on the situation, where we are, what needs to be done.
No, there's other ways to bring in income.
Okay, keep the mic. It's coming right back down. Again, yes or no? Should Dickman Hall have the necessary appliances to serve frozen pizzas, etc.?
Yes. Oh, it depends. Oh.
Now, that might be a place where we need to raise the dues, but whatever. Yes, I think that would be very nice.
Probably yes, depending on what facilities they have available to complement that.
Yes.
Yes.
This is not part of my yes or no answer, but how many restaurants are in Brackettville for a community of, what, 3,000?
Half dozen.
About 11 on Highway 90, so I would say no.
You already, that's right. No, we already have 2 pizza parlors around.
Somebody corrected you, just said 3. Okay, next question. And this one again goes to everybody. So, right back to you. However, this is not a yes or no question. What is the most important trait you think a board member should possess?
Listening.
Listening or listening?
Listening.
I can't even argue, but the point is not just to listen, it's to actually do something with the information you're given. When you are talking to a group of people, just like we said, I'd like to say no, but I need to say yes. You gotta listen to what is being talked about, and not just what's being said to your face, but what is going on in the community. You gotta be involved in the community, and then you need to act on that information rationally, without emotion, in consensus with all the members of the homeowners association, and looking at the 10-year plan for how you're gonna impact decisions 5 and 6 years down the road based on your decision. So you gotta listen and act.
I think one of the most important traits that somebody that's going to sit on the board should have is common sense. Because if you don't have common sense, you're going to make some bad decisions for the people, and you'll hear about it.
I love that answer. My answer is openness. None of us in this room, nobody at the front of the room here, nobody out there in the audience has all the answers, because if you did, we'd all be voting for you unanimously and we wouldn't be sitting here right now. You've got to have people on the board that are willing to not only entertain your ideas, but actually see them follow through when it's the right decision. So you don't have somebody up there that's willing to listen to the membership and willing to help them work through and sort of solidify some of those plans, we're never going to succeed.
I think open-mindedness, the willingness to hear all sides of the question, but also, almost more importantly, is to make sure the information you are receiving is accurate, that it's truthful. That's very important, especially in this day and age with the social media and all the things that go on there. So I'd say open-mindedness, verify your facts before you make your decision.
That's exactly what I was going to say, was open-mindedness, the ability to listen to whatever's being said by different sides and act accordingly.
I would say business logic with a community this size and the demographics and the assets that we have. We need someone with business logic that will follow through on projects. Do it, and if we do it in the best interest with a logical mind, it will benefit all of us.
Keep in mind. Okay, again, for everybody. Should Dickman Hall be open Wednesday through Sunday with flexible hours to accommodate both those watching televised sports events and give those people riding the scenic loop a place to take a break? In case you're not familiar with that, there are bicyclists, motorcyclists, and even a few car drivers that take a scenic loop around through here. And what this question is referring to there is, let's give them a break or a place to take a break.
I am very much in favor of this. If we're going to spend our money to open up Dickman Hall, then we need to do our very best to make it successful and make it bring in income. We need the income. The members should not be the cash cow.
We were talking about this earlier, about we want to take our buildings and make them productive and get people in them in many different facets, and this is a great way to do it. Let people come in and see our nice place, and they're going to want to come back and stay in a motel maybe, and then maybe they'll buy a house.
I'm going to meet your time limit this time. My answer is yes.
I would say yes, and just the short explanation behind that being is that with every business and anything here on the fort, whether it's Dickman Hall, the golf course, you've got to target the hours that you're open to the things that are going on in your community. And without knowing that, without being aware of the cyclists, which frankly I wasn't until just now, you have to do that research. It's market research. It's exactly what you have to do to figure out when you're going to be effective, when you're going to actually produce with the money that you're putting into the overhead.
Before we keep them open those days, I think it needs to be studied pretty good and to see which exactly days and nights are going to be the busiest, where we wouldn't lose money having it open on a night where people may not drive in to pay for opening of the bar there. So, but otherwise, yeah, if it'll bring in some money, revenue, and pay for itself, sure.
Thanks. I think the question of Dickman Hall keeps coming up, and it's obviously near to your heart, so it needs to be looked at. It needs to be asked to the executive director and the administration what it's going to cost and how it's going to impact the 10-year plan. Got it. We have a lot of restaurants downtown, and we have done something that I thought I'd never see. We broke relationships with Bracketville significantly over the charging money or allowing access or not allowing access. We know we need to increase tourism, and we have a lot of people downtown who have restaurants and catering, and we have a community who likes to go out to eat but doesn't want to go off the fort. So why don't we partner with the restaurant community in Bracketville to utilize Dickman Hall once a month or once a week and bring in a menu that we don't have to support with the kitchen and our own finances? I just think it makes sense.
It would be nice to do this, but it's been mentioned here that you can't open a restaurant on Monday night because 2 cyclists showed up. And I'm not picking about this thing, but how could you justify opening for 2 people? So part of the problem is that there's got to be basically out front someplace a sign that says open to the public, because otherwise people are not going to know you whether you're open or closed. But basically, yes.
Thank you, keep the mic. Do you believe, I didn't say you did. Do you believe Fort Clark clubs serve a beneficial purpose to the fort and the association? That's a yes or no. That can't be yes. Okay.
Wait the yes or no.
Okay, we'll wait till yes or no.
The clubs serve a function?
Do you believe Fort Clark clubs serve a beneficial purpose to the fort and the association?
Definitely so. In their own way, each club has their own reason for being here and supporting the fort in various ways. Yes. Tourism could be one.
Absolutely, without a doubt. The reason you all came here was for a specific amenity or a specific aspect of the fort, and the clubs give you an outlet to do that in fellowship with other people. That is essential. It can also be, again, a way that we can expand our membership and increase our revenue. I do not know why we don't have a cooperative effort with the historical battalion out of Fort Killeen and out of Waco. Why we don't have trail ride activities for members to bring their family members to and their children to and things like that. Probably because somewhere along the line the clubs didn't either receive the support or the finances to do what they needed to do, or they weren't able to market. And I think every one of those clubs needs an avenue to get those aspects out.
Repeat it one more time, please. I'm hard of hearing, that's why I'm making you do that.
Do you believe Fort Clark clubs serve a beneficial purpose to the fort and to the association?
Yes, I've sat in on the board meetings for the last 6 months, and I've listened to the different clubs come in and give their reports, and it is a way to let the board members know what's going on with their organizations. I've also listened to a lot of arguments from people in some of these clubs. Don't know what to say about that, but yeah, they do have a place.
Our clubs are priceless. And what I mean when I say that is it would be impossible for this association to pay for the expertise it would cost to bring in somebody who does all of these things on a professional manner. So if we want to be a world-class facility where people want to come here, whether it's on a short-term stay or come to live with us, the only way we're going to be able to provide some of those things is with these volunteers from these clubs that devote their time and their money to put them together and to put these events on.
Of course, they provide a benefit to the association. And one of those benefits is they get people involved. And that's one of our problems, is that we haven't had people get involved enough. So the more people are involved with the clubs, the more they may get involved with the rest of the association. A good example of that is the activity center. That beautiful facility sits there unused, when all it would take would be a couple parents to get together, volunteer, and have it open Friday and Saturday night for their kids to enjoy. But it hasn't happened. Hopefully maybe some of the involvement in clubs can encourage that to happen. Thank you.
Clubs provide an opportunity for people to get involved with other people doing things that they enjoy doing, similar things that they enjoy doing. think it's great that we have clubs as long as the club does what it's supposed to do here on the fort.
Yes. Clubs add great value to us at Fort Brooke Springs. I believe we need more clubs. I believe also we need to partner with the clubs and try to make them ensure that they advertise for us. Within each club, I mean, this could be part of our advertisement plan, that even the clubs has a plan to advertise and what type of advertising. I think our biggest problem is not the clubs or not having clubs, it's communication. Like you guys said, a lot of people are internet savvy, but there's a lot that are not. And we have no way to communicate.
Go ahead.
I'm
10
good.
seconds.
I'm
Go.
good. I'm good. We need a letter. We need a newsletter, weekly newsletter, or a monthly, or bi-monthly, yeah.
Okay. Where do you stand on the association taking control over areas where Fort Clark clubs operate with a signed agreement?
That's a hard question. What kind of agreements do we have with them? You have to analyze whether we're adding value or taking value away. Is there any way we can sign contracts with them where they take over all the liabilities and get us out from underneath the liabilities? If it doesn't cost us as members to maintain that facilities, we need to look at each contract and agreement. If they want a particular building and it's not, and it's actually adding value to us as the members, they're taking away that cost from us. So we no longer have that cost. At this time, that's very important because we can spend our money on buildings that are not being used or other facilities here on the fort.
Jack, one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay, where do you stand on the association taking control over areas where Fort Clark clubs operate with a signed contract?
The issue of the fact that the fort owns the property that these clubs are utilizing, there seems to be an issue where they need to ensure that the clubs realize that these properties belong to the fort and that they need to follow the rules that the fort is requiring. So if these contracts are easier for the fort to do that with, and they serve the purpose that the club needs, I don't see any problem with it.
None of the signed agreements are perpetual. And as Linda said, the property belongs to the association and all the members, and it must be operated in compliance with our governing documents, which has not always been the case, and that's where the rift comes up a little bit sometimes. I would hope it would not be necessary for the association or the fort, so to speak, to take over any of these properties, but if there's not an agreement that complies with our documents, it may be necessary. Each one has to be looked at individually. Each situation is unique. The gun club, the horse stables, the art club, the garden club, all that. So each case is an individual question.
I'm going to agree with something Dan just touched on. Each case is unique, and I think this question was asked for a very specific situation, but I'm going to keep it general. If we've made an agreement as an association with this club, unless we can show that there is an adverse impact to the association as a result of that agreement, or if that agreement was not formulated to meet with the documents, then I do not know why we would go back on that agreement with that club or association.
5 minutes.
If the fort had to take over an area where the club was taking care of it, and the cost was passed along to the membership, I don't know that I would be very happy seeing something like that happen. So I hope that we have made good decisions with whatever club is operating, so this won't happen.
This is a question I would need to do a lot more research on to make sure that we understand fully what we're saying. I don't really necessarily comprehend the question correctly, but I think what they're getting at is, can the Fort come in and take property away from a club unless they sign a contract that they will do X, Y, and Z that the Fort asks? So, that being said, I think there is a tendency for the Fort to try to protect itself in a manner that is detrimental to its membership. And what I mean by that is, we need to sign an agreement to allow people to utilize their own communal property if it benefits them economically, or if it exposes the Fort to extra insurance requirements. So we require them to have their own insurance so we get a discount on our insurance. I think we need to look at that, because if we detract from those activities, we're taking away things from the members.
We need to have agreements on a case-by-case basis. If they're using Fort property, it belongs to all of us, so we have to make sure that they are complying with the rules, that it's not costing the members more than it should.
Hang on.
3 minutes. It's 11:57.
11:50. Whoa. Okay, all I can do is go with the next one, okay? And this is going to be difficult, I know. I'm not going to take 3 minutes to read it. What I'm going to do is give each one of you a minute apiece in order to sum up what you want, the main points you want to get across. Bill, you want to go first?
We have to work with the membership. We have to work for the membership and whatever we do on this Fort. There are rules and regulations we have to follow. There are laws we have to follow. And we have to do the best that we can to make it so that what we have to do is likable, or I don't know if that's a good word, that the membership is okay with what we do. We are now a business. We have to operate like a business.
Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. It's been awesome to hear your questions and to have a chance to talk about them. I truly believe that if we work together, if we stop arguing with each other, if we stop bickering over petty things, and as Bill mentioned, we treat this as a business and an investment in our future and in our kids' future, we're going to succeed. There's no reason we can't. I would like to help you see your visions and your goals come to fruition, and I plan on being here for a long time. So thank you for your time.
I also plan on being here for a long time. Hopefully I'll be here a long time. Anybody elected to the board is going to have to keep the trust of the people. I've listened to a lot of complaints here for the last half a year. I think it's going to be very important to whoever gets elected to the board, be it me or my constituents up here, that they do what they think is right and what is best for the people and keep their trust up.
I think going forward, I think we've all agreed that things need to change. But one thing I really want to make clear is I don't think Fort Clark Springs needs to change. I think our approach to the way we manage this property needs to change. I think there needs to be a higher degree of accountability amongst every one of us, not only in this room, but everyone that owns property here, everyone that's invested in it, including even our recreational members. Even though they don't own property here, they're still invested in this community. And I think that what we have to decide as a membership is, are we willing to come to a conclusion or come to a decision when we may not all agree this is the best way versus this is the best way. It's just like Congress, folks. Nothing ever gets done because nobody's ever willing to compromise. The bottom line here is are we as a community ready to work with each other and compromise?
I have always tried to, and will always continue to try to base any decisions I make as a director on what the majority, that's one of my favorite words, the majority of the membership wants, not just one special group, and not based on what just happens to be popular at the moment. I'm retired, my children, grandchildren are grown, so I have the time, the experience, and the knowledge to do this job and to work for you. So I'm asking for your vote. And again, thank you all for coming out.
Excuse me. I have a passion for Clark Springs that hopefully you people see. I have it daily. I run around. I'm excited. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I want to make a difference here. I have before in the past on a couple other projects. And I feel the need to try and help now. It would be easier to stay home and work on my preservation things, but I'd like to get a volunteer group going of 10 to 15 adults who want to work on projects that need to be done. Even though we don't have money, I think we can find the paint anyway and the pressure washer. If that's what it takes to get things done here, because we are so far behind on many, many projects. And so my intention, if I can get on the board, is to take and work at the board level, and then when I'm not doing that, to be out working with a volunteer group. I'd like to see unit groups, just like Unit 1 did.
I'm going to be here a long time. My sisters and friends are retiring here. They're starting to build homes this year or next year. I have many children and grandchildren and relatives. So it's very important to me that this society and this Fort Clark Springs succeeds and continues to be a great place to live. I believe that we're too large of a community to run it personally. I believe that we need to run it with management plans, ideas. We need to look at the whole, every variable in a project, the cost, the input, we need to look at grants. We need to look at, there's actually volunteers. Schools can even kids need volunteer hours to get into college. There's all kinds of avenues we can go with to bring in and get things done. I believe everyone here that's running, everyone's ran in the past, everybody that's been in the past has wanted the best. But it's up to you guys to see what it is.
First, I want to thank everyone here. Both candidates and audience, you have been superb. You have been kind, you have been considerate, and I also want to let you know that we did not get through all of the questions. There simply wasn't time. However, I am asking candidates, if you will please, hang around the front of the building for a while so that people can approach you individually and get a little bit of FaceTime with you, and hopefully you can think rapidly on your feet. Okay, thank you very much for coming.